All right.
Well, that sounds delightful. And I'm going to take us in another direction.
Uh-oh. Okay, what?
I'm going to talk about Monsters, the Lyle and Erik Menendez story on Netflix. It's the second installation in Ryan Murphy's true crime anthology series.
Right.
The first one was Dahmer, which obviously got rave reviews. I will say my husband loved it.
People ate it up.
Oh, my God. That was perfect, Eddie. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. I had a little hard time with it. I would dip in and out of it because you're like, oh God, like
Yeah, a bit much.
This is a little more glamorized than Dahmer. It takes place in 1989 when Erik and Lyle Menendez murder their parents, and basically then the aftermath through the trial.
Right.
And the first trial, for those of you who don't know, was a mistrial, and then they got convicted on the second trial,
I didn't remember that.
which was like quite a few years later. Then I think they also banned cameras in the second trial, and therefore that's less titillating to the public.
Titillating?
Titillating.
Scintillating.
Scintillating. Okay.
Yeah, she did a made-up hybrid word. Cool.
I think that was smart of me. So the cast is the two boys, Erik and Lyle, and you basically meet them at the age that this happens, which is around 18 and 21. And Erik Menendez is played by Cooper Koch, which is the younger brother, and Lyle Menendez is played by Nicholas Chavez, and that is the older brother. And you also have Javier Bardem, who plays the father, who is Jose Menendez, and the mother is played by Chloë Sevigny.
Sevigny.
Sevigny. I gotta like what's with Sevigny. Kitty Menendez. Those are the primary four core characters, but obviously it is, with his anthology series, you really get that Ryan Murphy loves an ensemble. And I'm saying ensemble, but it's an ensemble cast because it's usually big and broad, the storytelling. And he definitely is taking liberties here with the story. And just full disclosure, Erik and Lyle has come out with a statement basically against this anthology series, saying that a lot of it's not accurate because obviously there are elements of it that who would ever even know? How would we know? And so there's some melodramatic or definitely some narratives that you're like, did this really happen? I don't know. But the two lead characters, Erik and Lyle, those actors that portray them do a really good job. I would say the Lyle is almost hyper kinetic. I mean, there is this whole, and I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not even going to do spoiler alerts, okay? I mean, they have been in jail. They're lifetime sentences. They're currently in jail. You know, these trials, like all of us were alive. Most of the people, if you're of a certain age, to be able to appropriately watch the series, then you basically were alive when this happened, and you know that like they just got lifetime sentences. I still think they maintain their innocence. It's innocence in the sense of, and it gets into the abuse in the family.
Yes.
During the trial, they did come out and say that they were sexually abused by their father and also physically and mentally abused. There was no corroboration on that. The father at one point was an entrepreneur and businessman, very successful. They belonged to country clubs. Lyle got into Princeton. These boys were problematic. I mean, they would rob homes and were caught for that. And then Lyle at Princeton got kicked out or was on suspension from Princeton basically for plagiarism. So there were issues, okay?
But yes, I mean, I wouldn't say that I would expect them to murder their parents, but
absolutely not. And that scene where it takes place, you know, Ryan Murphy, don't hold back.
Oh,
It's pretty graphic. You're like, oh, God, oh, Lord. I mean, it is alarming. So this is not for the faint of heart because it really shows the depravity of what they did. It does not hold back on like, wow, you murdered your parents. My God. Because also at 18 and 21, move out. Get out. I mean, even if the abuse was to the level of what you're saying, if not less, get out.
Yeah.
Just move out. But you're not going to have the lifestyle. And that's why the prosecutor basically always said it was about the money. Because why else wouldn't you have just left? So there wasn't any corroboration getting back to the sexual abuse until, because the father, like I said, was a big successful businessman. He had dealings with Menudo, which was a very popular all boys version of like a boy band
in the
genre.
Spanish language.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So someone came out from that group and said the father had sexually abused him.
Yeah.
So now you're like
recently, like within the last couple of years.
Right. So then you kind of go, wait a minute. So then maybe the behavior was not so out of character or so unexpected. So it's a cast of characters. You have Nathan Lane playing Dominic Dunn, who was a famous reporter for Vanity Fair, who always did amazing profile pieces. And after the murder of his niece, highly focused on what was like American crime, and usually American crime in the world of the wealthy or the privileged. So very fascinating. There's a great scene with Robert Shapiro, the lawyer, basically just being like, are you two morons? He goes to visit them in prison, and there's a whole prison sequence. And Ryan Murphy, you actually made me laugh out loud, and you should not be laughing at this show. But Lyle, because his hair looked so weird, it came out that he was wearing a toupee. And for like a 21-year-old man to wear a toupee, it was just sort of out of character.
Seemed odd, yeah.
Right. So him in prison trying to get the toupee tape and maintain his toupee is so ridiculous. And basically saying to the lawyer, the death penalty was on the table at that point in California. So he was so concerned, me and his lawyer, to make sure he got his tape for his toupee. And he kept going Bain de Soleil. Now, those of you who don't know, Bain de Soleil is like a tanning lotion because we look really pale. And the jury is going to see us. So if the jury sees two well-groomed, smart, attractive young men, there's no jury in the world that's going to convict us. The guy's like, can you focus? I mean, it's like so good. So he ends up quitting. And that's when we get the lawyer that we all saw on television in the first trial as advertised, which was the Leslie Abramson character with the crazy perm.
It's interesting because when you said that only the first trial was recorded or made public, there were cameras in the courtroom. Right. I remember that so clearly. I didn't realize there was a second trial, and all of my memories are from that trial.
And then I don't even know if cameras weren't allowed inside at all.
Oh, interesting.
So therefore, like the sympathy of the public, which should not sway a jury one way or the other, did not happen.
For sure.
So, it is, I would say, grandiose, melodramatic, at times like almost like hyper, has awesome like early 90s vibe to it, especially California vibe. And the two actors, especially the one that Erik, is excellent. Really, really good. So, I'll just say it. Ryan Murphy, you did it again. My husband is watching it with me, and we did fall asleep during one episode because we were just so tired. We woke up and it was in the next episode. We're like, wait, what happened? And I mean, the thing is, we know what happens, really. That's what's kind of interesting about it, because we do know the end result. They are in prison right now for life. Now, they've been able to get married and live these kind of odd prison lives. Like, why are you two single? I mean, these two fuckers are married. Oh my God. But I'm just saying, it's just crazy because you kind of go like, they were convicted. They are in jail for life. The death penalty got in California, you're not going to be put to death for a crime anymore.
Yeah. Well, so the main thing is, it's not disputed really that they killed them. They did kill their parents. It's might be the extenuating circumstances.
I have to call out, really, because they might not have gotten caught. Because the night of the murders, they were bumbling idiots with their trying to establish their alibi. I don't know if they washed their hands with gun residue all over them. And the police did not test their hands for gun residue, did not check their cars, which had the shell casings in the trunks. There were so many levels of insanity of that they could have gotten caught. And they basically had no evidence and probably could not have tied them to him. They were trying to say the dad's business dealings and potentially it could have been a Colombian gang and all this crazy stuff. It was Erik going to, because racked with guilt, he went to his psychologist, his therapist. And the therapist recorded the sessions and was having marital problems and had a mistress. And the mistress knew about confessing in the therapist's environment, which then should be protected by, confidentiality. But she just, I'm a spurned woman. I'm going to go to the LAPD.
Oh, wow.
And that is what started their demise.
I did not know that.
Now, there is no way they were going to get away with it. I mean, they were too immature. I mean, they were buying things, the famous things. They would buy Porsches. They were buying clothes. They were buying 10 Rolex watches. They were just insane. And they didn't even really know at that point if they were going to inherit everything. So it's also the case of bumbling idiots. But, it goes to the root of psychological, mental, and possible sexual abuse in a household. Kitty, the mother, had alcohol problems, or that is how she's portrayed. And therefore, what does that trauma breed?
Yeah, wow.
Two monsters. And they try to portray it as Kitty and Jose were monsters, and they basically created two monsters. So it's an environment of I was like, gosh, I'm going to be really nice to my kid.
Oh, geez.
But I mean, it just was it's fascinating, even though we know the end result. Ryan Murphy does a really good job of like the sexuality element of it. You're like, what is going on here? The first, because Mark, my husband, did not remember certain. I'm like, he's laying the groundwork for something here. So if you like crime anthology and you like that type of hyper realness and those elements, and Ryan Murphy does a very titillating, how about that?
Yeah.
Job with it. It is well worth the watch.
Okay. Interesting. All right, Ed, you're up.
That was a real interesting one, Liz.
It is like number 1 or 2 on Netflix. It's not like I dug deep to find it.
No, it's also on par for the course of Liz's horrendous docudramas and stuff. So it's like, yeah, that's right up your alley. This is the real crime stuff. That's what you like.
And I'm not a real crime person.
You're not really.
But it's on my algorithm. It's on my Netflix algorithm.
You're doing it all the time.
I know. Because they keep putting it in front of me. We recommend. I'm like, okay.
Just say no.
All right.